Think about a 90-minute soccer match. It's an explosion of information, right? Thousands of little moments, decisions, and movements all happening at once. For the longest time, the only tool a coach had to make sense of that chaos was their own memory. But what if that tool was, fundamentally broken? That one little question kicked off a revolution that changed the sport forever.
And this quote from the legendary coach Dick Bate, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. I mean, just think about that. If you can only remember half of what actually happened out there, and that's on a good day, how can you possibly make the right call? This became known as the 50% problem, and it's what started this whole quest to replace fuzzy memory with cold, hard facts. So today, we're going to trace that whole revolution. We'll start with the simple tools that first brought data to the sidelines, see how video just completely changed the game, then get into the all-seeing eye of today's tracking systems, and finally, we'll connect it all back to what actually matters, how this stuff helps you win.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. The first real attempts to bring objective data into soccer started way back in the late 1940s. The tools were, well, they were pretty primitive. But the idea? Absolutely groundbreaking. They wanted to create a factual record of what really happened, without all the bias of human memory. This was the birth of what we now call notational analysis.
You have to understand, this concept of an objective record was a huge deal. For the first time, notational analysis gave coaches a reliable way to answer really basic but really important questions. Who took the shots? Where from? Did they go in? I know it sounds so simple to us now, but imagine, for the very first time, coaches had a record that didn't lie.
And this is pretty much what it looked like at the start. Super simple tally sheets just to track key actions. So for a player here named Roberts, you can see right away, okay, 3 shots on target, but only 1 successful dribble compared to 4 bad ones. It's basic, for sure, but it's data. It's a real, factual place to start a conversation about a player's performance. And these methods got surprisingly sophisticated really fast. By the early 2000s, those simple tallies had evolved into these incredibly detailed manual systems. Look at this one. This sheet from a 2003 match is tracking just one thing, free kicks. But look at all that detail. It's got the zone on the pitch, the type of delivery, was it an in-swinger or an out-swinger, and the final outcome. And someone was doing all of this by hand in real time. Just wild. So the next giant leap forward wasn't about a better pen or a fancier chart. It came from technology, video. First the VCR, and then the computer, let coaches break free from scribbling frantically on the sidelines. Now they could actually sit down and dissect a performance, frame by frame, long after the final whistle blew.
And this new tech created a really powerful workflow. You record the match, then an analyst goes through the footage and codes it. They log every key action, a pass, a tackle, a shot, and they link it to the player, the position, and the exact time in the video. And that created a direct link between the data and the video. So a coach could click a line on a spreadsheet, and bam, they're instantly watching the exact moment that player missed a tackle.
And you can really see the massive leap in power when you put the old and new side by side. On the left, a static hand-drawn map of the pitch. On the right, you've got a dynamic reconstruction of the entire match where you can watch every player move in sync, almost like a digital twin of the game. The difference is just, it's night and day.
And that brings us to right now, the modern era, where player tracking technology has created a full-blown data explosion. We're not just tracking what happens to the ball anymore. Nope. Today, we track literally everything that moves.
And there are basically 2 main ways this happens. First, you have video-based systems. They use a ton of cameras all over the stadium to follow players using image processing. Then there's electronic player tracking. This is where they put tiny little microchip transmitters right on the player in their shirt or shin pad, and antennas around the pitch pick up the signal to track exactly where they are. And here's what one of those electronic systems actually looks like when it's all set up. You can see the antennas and all the computer gear right there near the pitch, ready to grab and process all those signals from the player's microchips. This is the hardware that turns every little movement into a constant, massive stream of data. And the precision of that data stream is just staggering. How many data points are we talking about? Well, get this. These electronic systems can calculate a player's exact position on the pitch up to 200 times a second. That's not 200 data points a game, that's 200 every single second. The sheer volume of information is almost impossible to wrap your head around.
So, we've gone from simple tally marks on a clipboard to capturing millions of data points every single match. But that brings us to the most important question of all, right? The big so what? How does any of this actually help a team win?
Well, check out this breakdown of goals from the 2002 World Cup. It tells a really surprising story. We all tend to focus on the beautiful, flowing goals from open play, but the data shows that was only 52% of the goals. A massive 48%, almost half, came from set pieces. We're talking free kicks, corners, and throw-ins. Now that is a huge, actionable insight.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's one thing to know that 48% of goals come from set pieces, but turning that knowledge into a goal next Saturday, well, that's something else entirely. So how do you bridge that gap between the spreadsheet and the scoreboard?
The answer is right here, on the training pitch. This is where the data comes to life. Coaches use these insights to design specific drills that solve specific problems. For instance, if the data shows your team is vulnerable to crosses, you don't just stand there and shout, "Defend better." No way. You build a training session, just like this one, that recreates that exact game situation over and over and over until the solution is just muscle memory. The data doesn't just identify the problem, it shapes the solution.
So we've gone on this incredible journey, from a coach remembering maybe 50% of a match to systems that track a player 200 times a second. It's an amazing testament to the relentless search for an edge. But it leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. In a world of total information, where art and science are now basically inseparable, has the beautiful game become a solved equation? What's the future of creativity and intuition in soccer even look like?